When a woman ignores you, most men make the same fatal mistake. They chase after her. But Machiavelli understood something that modern men have forgotten: how to use her own game against her to make her pursue you instead. True power is not earned by begging, it's achieved with calculated indifference. I'm about to reveal why her silence isn't accidental but a deliberate strategy to test your emotional strength. Because when you master these principles, you don't lose a woman, you turn her into an admirer. Let's get straight to the point. Have you ever wondered why a woman who seemed interested suddenly becomes a ghost? Here's the harsh truth you need to hear. That silence is not a coincidence. It's a calculated test of your emotional strength. She's measuring how desperate you become when attention slips away. Machiavelli wrote about the art of political war, but his principles apply perfectly to modern seduction. He understood that whoever controls the narrative controls the power. When a woman ignores you, she's trying to write your story for you. The story of a man who chases attention. But not all silences are the same. And this is where most men go wrong. There are 3 specific types of silence you must recognize as a strategist reading the battlefield. First, the silence of testing. She continues to view your stories but doesn't respond to your messages. She's sent you signals of interest, but now she's playing hard to get. It's like a general letting the enemy make the first move to study their strategy. She wants to see if you will pursue her or if you will hold your ground. Second, the silence of processing. She completely disappears from social media, doesn't respond to anyone. Something is happening in her personal life, and she needs mental space. This silence has nothing to do with you. It's about her own internal struggles. Third, the silence of rejection. She gives you short responses, constant excuses, total coldness. She's already decided there's no future, but expects you to understand this indirectly. It's her way of saying no without direct confrontation. Now, how do you respond to each type? Here's the masterstroke that separates men of value from desperate boys. You respond the same way to all 3. You don't chase. You don't decipher. You don't beg. You simply reflect her energy like a perfect mirror. If she takes 4 hours to reply, you take 4 hours. If she cancels plans, you make new ones without drama. If she's cold, you remain calm but distant. This completely disarms her strategy because she can't manipulate someone who isn't playing her game. Look at how this type of content makes you realize how power dynamics actually work in relationships. Like and subscribe to the channel because what comes next is going to completely change your perspective on how to handle these situations. The key is understanding that her silence is information, not instruction. It shows you exactly who she is and how she operates. But true mastery isn't just about recognizing these patterns. It's in what you do with them while maintaining that calculated indifference. Do you know the biggest mistake men make when applying the mirror technique? They sit there motionless, thinking that by ignoring her, they'll win. But this is not a strategy. It's passivity disguised as tactics. This is where Machiavellian philosophy shines. Machiavelli didn't just talk about defending against enemies, but about strengthening yourself while the enemy weakens. While she plays these silent games, you're building your personal empire. When you reflect her energy, the time you recover isn't to stay on the couch lamenting. It's your golden moment to become the most powerful version of yourself. While she waits for your desperate reaction, you're in the gym, forging your discipline. While she checks if you've seen her story, you're focused on your career, building abundance. While she plays with your mind, you're with your friends, building a solid social life. Do you see the pattern? Every hour she invests trying to manipulate you is an hour you invest in becoming more valuable. It's like an exchange where she loses energy, and you multiply it. But here's the most powerful psychological part. When you start posting gym pictures, updates on your projects, or photos out with friends, something shifts in her mind. She begins to see that her silence didn't destroy you. It propelled you forward, and that triggers something psychologists call the loss version. Her brain starts calculating. At one point, this guy was supposed to chase me, beg me, prove how much I was needed, but he's improving without me. What happens if he doesn't really want me? What happens if he finds someone better while I'm playing these games? This is the magic of building real value while maintaining calculated indifference. You're not pretending not to care. You genuinely have more important things to do than decipher her mind games. I've seen this work time and time again. I know a friend who, when a woman applied the silent treatment, simply carried on with his life. He enrolled in cooking classes. He started a side business. He reached the best shape of his life. 3 weeks later, she wrote him a long paragraph explaining why she had been distant and asking to reconnect. What happened there? She was betting that he would collapse without her attention, but he proved that his life was improving without her drama. This completely changed the power dynamic. True confidence doesn't come from pretending it doesn't affect you. It comes from building a life so rich and abundant that her presence or absence doesn't define your emotional state. When your days are filled with purpose, growth, and personal satisfaction, a woman's silence becomes a minor pause in your symphony. But be careful, because when she returns, and she will if she had real interest, comes the most difficult test of all. Most men fail right at this critical moment. Do you know why men lose just when they're about to win? Because when she finally comes back after the silence, they act like nothing happened. It's as if all the personal work evaporates the moment they receive that message. Picture the scene. You've spent 3 weeks applying calculated indifference, building your value, holding firm. Suddenly she pops up with a, "Hey, how's it going?" as if it's the most natural thing in the world. And this is where 90% of men make the fatal mistake. They respond immediately with enthusiasm. They fall back into their old patterns and hand over all the power they had regained. This is what I call the return test, and it's more treacherous than silence itself. Because now she's evaluating whether your strength was authentic or just a performance. If you rush like a hungry dog, you confirm that her original strategy worked, and she can repeat it whenever she wants. Machiavelli understood that temporary victories mean nothing if you can't maintain the position you've gained. True power is measured by your ability to maintain control once you've achieved it, not just in obtaining it. So, how do you pass this ultimate test? You maintain exactly the same energy and the same priorities that made her come back. If you took 4 hours to respond before, you continue to take 4 hours. If you had plans and routines that you didn't cancel for her, you continue not canceling them. The key is that she must feel that she has to earn your attention, not that it's guaranteed just by reappearing. She must perceive that your life has improved during her absence, and that now she must prove why she deserves a place in that improved life. This is where many men go wrong, thinking they're playing games. But this is not a game. It's consistency. It's maintaining the standards you developed when you were alone. It's proving that your growth didn't depend on her validation. I remember another friend who handled this brilliantly. After 2 weeks of silence, she wrote to apologize and suggested meeting up. He didn't jump for joy. He responded with the same calm energy he had maintained. He told her he had to check his schedule and would get back to her. She, expecting to immediately regain control, realized he had truly changed. The result? She began making efforts to connect with him, proposing plans, showing real interest. The power had completely reversed because he hadn't caved at the critical moment. But here's the most important distinction. It's not about manipulating or seeking revenge. It's about maintaining the self-respect you developed during her absence. If you give in now, you show her that your personal growth was conditional on her attention. The woman who is worth it will respect this consistency and be drawn to your emotional strength. The wrong woman will be frustrated because she can't manipulate you easily and will probably move away. Either way, you win. So far you have the fundamental tools: recognizing the types of silence, applying calculated indifference, building personal value, and passing the return test. But there's one extreme situation where all these rules change completely. What do you do when silence isn't a test, but a form of psychological torture? When she uses intermittent silence as a weapon to keep you trapped in a cycle of hope and despair, that's where you need the most radical strategy of all. Some women have perfected the art of emotional manipulation. They ignore you for days and then come back with crumbs of attention, then disappear again. It's like a psychological casino where you're always waiting for the next prize. But the big win never comes. Machiavelli knew that some enemies cannot be neutralized by diplomacy or defensive strategies. Sometimes, the only way to win is to completely withdraw from the battlefield. Not because you're weak, but because you recognize that some conflicts have no solution. How do you identify when you've reached this point? First, it's been weeks or more since you last responded to direct messages, but she remains active on social media, deliberately ignoring you. Second, she has an established pattern of repeated silent treatment. This isn't the first time she's done this to you. Third, she uses mutual friends' information to know that you're asking about her, which fuels her sense of power. When these three elements combine, you're not facing a woman who's testing your value. You're facing someone who enjoys psychological control and uses your interest as fuel for her ego. This is where the nuclear option comes into play. Total and permanent withdrawal. No more mirrors, no more waiting, no more building value hoping she notices. You cut all connection as if it never existed. This means deleting her from social media, not trying to get updates about her from mutual friends, not passing by places where you know she'll be. It's more radical than calculated indifference because you expect no reaction from her. You simply erase her from your reality. Why does this strategy work? Because manipulators need to know they have power over you. Their satisfaction comes from the feeling that they can make you act emotionally whenever they wish. When you disappear completely, they lose that source of validation. I've seen cases where after applying the nuclear option, she goes into a total state of panic. She starts asking all mutual acquaintances what happened to you. She tries to find indirect ways to contact you. She may even try to track you down physically. But by this time, it's already too late because you've understood who she really is. The difference between a strong man and a wise man is that the strong can resist manipulation, but the wise recognize it from the start and don't allow it to begin. It's not about winning the game, but recognizing when it's not worth playing. Here's the final truth that most men don't want to accept. Some women aren't looking for a real relationship. They're looking for emotional entertainment. And when you realize you're the entertainment and not the protagonist, the only winning move is to cancel the show. In the end, it all comes down to this Machiavellian wisdom. Your time and emotional energy are finite resources. Investing them in someone who uses them for power games is not a strategy. It's self-destruction disguised as persistence. But the reward for properly applying these principles goes far beyond winning or losing with a particular woman. Ultimately, her silence was never about you. It was about her. It revealed her character, not your value. When you master these Machiavellian principles, you don't just filter out manipulators. You attract women who value real communication over power games. You don't lose a partner. You free yourself from a problem and open yourself to authentic relationships. Become that man who is too valuable to be chased, but too interesting to be ignored. By mastering these principles, you transform yourself into a person who commands respect without begging for it. The power lies in your ability to remain undisturbed by the tactics used to manipulate your emotions. The key isn't about playing games. It's about understanding the rules of engagement and using them to your advantage without getting emotionally entangled in the process. The true winner isn't the one who chases, but the one who remains centered, who does not falter when tested, and who builds his own life on his own terms. Now, let's address the deeper psychological aspects. When a woman applies the silent treatment and returns after days or weeks, it's not just a test of your strength. It's a test of your growth and self-worth. The person who masters these principles has become someone whose emotional state is independent of the whims of others. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means recognizing your own value and standing firm in that conviction. It's about investing time and energy into yourself, building your own life, and letting her witness that you don't need her approval to feel complete. Every time she comes back, she's testing your boundaries, measuring your emotional resilience. If you react too quickly, too eagerly, you validate her ability to control the narrative. But if you hold your ground, you show her that you're not dependent on her. You've built a life that doesn't revolve around her, and you're not waiting for her attention to feel validated. This is where the most powerful shift occurs, when she starts to see that she has to earn your attention rather than having it automatically given to her. A woman who is truly interested in a man respects his strength, his emotional control, and his commitment to his own life. She is attracted to his capacity to maintain his standards regardless of the situation. A man who knows his worth, who continues to grow and build despite her games, becomes irresistible, not because he plays hard to get, but because he genuinely has other priorities. His value isn't contingent on her approval, it's intrinsic. However, there are some who do not seek real relationships. They seek to manipulate, control, and emotionally entrap. The trick is recognizing when you are dealing with someone who uses intermittent silence as a form of psychological manipulation. This is where the most radical strategy comes in: complete withdrawal. When a woman uses silence as a weapon, you must sever all ties with her. You can no longer afford to play along with her games, to wait for her attention like a dog waiting for a treat. The nuclear option isn't about revenge. It's about regaining control of your emotional life. It's about taking back the energy that she's been feeding off and redirecting it toward yourself. When you withdraw completely, she loses her power. She starts questioning what went wrong. She becomes desperate to regain the emotional control she once had. And when this happens, you've already won. You've taken back the power she tried to take from you, and now she has to prove herself to you. It's important to note that this is not about playing games. This is about self-respect. It's about knowing that your emotional energy is a valuable resource, and that you will no longer waste it on someone who uses it for power games. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people or relationships, but it means that you stop letting others dictate your emotional state. You stop allowing others to treat you as a pawn in their games of control and manipulation. You've become a king of your own life, and you will not let anyone make you feel less than that. This process of self-mastery is the key to real, lasting power in relationships. When you refuse to chase or beg, when you hold your ground and continue to build your life regardless of what she does, you shift the power dynamic in your favor. You're no longer playing on her terms, you're playing on yours. This doesn't mean you close yourself off from others, but it does mean that you stop allowing others to define your emotional state. Now you might ask, what happens if she truly does care? If she's really invested, won't she be concerned by your withdrawal? Yes, but remember this: if she truly cares, her reaction will be different. She will see your growth and your resilience, and she will respect you for it. But if she's only interested in manipulating you, she will either fade away or continue playing the same games. In either case, you've won. You've maintained your integrity, your emotional control, and your focus on your own growth. The most important lesson to take away from this is that you don't need to chase after anyone. You don't need to beg for their attention or approval. When you live a life of purpose, when you have goals and ambitions that drive you forward, you naturally become someone others want to be around. Your value is not determined by anyone else's behavior or opinion. It's determined by you and your actions. The more you focus on your own growth, the more you will attract people who respect you for who you truly are. So whether it's the silence of testing, processing, or rejection, remember that your response should always be the same. Maintain your indifference, focus on your own life, and continue building your value. Don't let anyone's games shake you. The real prize isn't winning her back. It's becoming the best version of yourself. That is the true reward. By mastering this art, you not only protect your emotional energy, but also open yourself up to the kind of relationship where both partners are fully invested, not in playing games, but in building something real. And remember, when you do this, you won't just become more attractive to women. You'll become a magnet for everyone in your life. Because the traits that make a man truly valuable, emotional control, purpose, and self-worth, are what others will find most magnetic. The key to mastering these principles lies in this one simple truth. You don't need to chase. You need to build your own life so powerfully that the right people, the ones who truly see your worth, will naturally be drawn to you.